So Todd, I have a question, and it's something that I'm kind of struggling with a little bit um, with the work. And I really liked what you said in an earlier session. I think you had a video on the work is like a game of warmer and colder. And I found that really intriguing. I really liked how you explained it. And I'm intrigued by the idea of stress as a sign that you need to examine your troublesome thoughts. Um, but what I'm struggling with is, Byron Katie says, well, do you have a non stressful reason to keep a thought? Well, what about a thought like, what about an emotion like guilt, for instance? Somebody calls you and you don't call them back, like a friend, it's now been a week or 2 weeks or whatever. And then you're feeling a little guilty and you feel bad and it keeps reminding you that you need to call them back. I think that's useful. So I'm not sure I want to give that up. Um, I'm interested in hearing your commentary on that. How do those what I would consider to be useful guilt feelings, how
Mm.
do those fit into what you've said about stress as basically something that you need to question
Hmm.
and that's
Hmm.
not helpful or useful.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's something you sometimes hear this debate, and I've heard it even when I was younger of like, is there a good kind of stress and a bad kind of stress or something? And I think I think the two get put together somehow because guilt is coming in the situation. I didn't call back, and I'm feeling guilty. Uh, we tend to associate the guilt as sort of the reminder to call us back, for us to call them back. And so I think there's a tendency to think, okay, yeah, that's a good thing. I don't want to get rid of that guilt because it's helping me to call that person back. But I've also noticed that guilt, using that example, can actually do the very opposite. I've Somebody calls me, I don't call them back, I feel guilty, and then I want to call them back, but I feel so guilty that I actually put it off even longer, and then I end up gets even longer, and then I really feel guilty, and then I end up never calling them back. I've done that. So I'm not sure that the guilt itself is the thing I want to hold on to. I'm not sure it's actually as useful as I might think at first glance. Um, it's a stress. And what I'm playing with here is if I didn't have the guilt, if I questioned the guilt, for example, and I didn't have the guilt, would I still get the reminders in my mind? And my sense is that I would. Um, there's a desire to connect with somebody. If someone's a friend or if it's something for business, there's something that I naturally enjoy about that person or want to do something with them. And I think that impulse, which is not connected to guilt at all, if it's natural, if it's strong enough, if it's natural enough, will cause me to call them back. And there won't be any worry about, oh my gosh, I didn't call back earlier, and the shame or guilt that can come from that. So I'm kind of, yeah, I've heard Byron Katie talk about similar things as well, of how some people use anger to motivate them to do something. And it sounds like a good kind of stress. But um, if you didn't have the anger, the assumption is that the motivation would be gone. But is that really true? And I know I have had some experience with this. I know she talks about her experience as well, is that without a feeling of anger, she's actually more motivated because there's nothing kind of hanging, there's no stress in the way, there's no heaviness there. And so it's kind of uncharted territory a little bit. Like, okay, who would I be without the thought, without the guilt without the anger, without the sadness, without the fear? Who would I be without these emotions, stressful emotions, and the thoughts that go with them? My sense, having done the work for a long time, is that it's a freer place. I'm just free to follow my nature, which is, do I want to call them back? If yes, great. If not, great. No guilt. Do I want to take action? Great. If yes, fine. If not, no problem. No, I don't need any extra push. And I think what that allows, at least conceptually, when I'm thinking about it here, is it allows for uh, a more integrated sense of being. Like, I'm just acting because that's what I want to do. Why am I calling them back? Because I want to. Or why am I taking action on something? Because I'm drawn to. I'm following these positive feelings, which are creative, intelligent, and energetic. And I'm not using fear or guilt or anger sort of in a negative way to motivate myself. Instead, the actual desire is motivating me directly, and I'm not having to I'm not having to go through the kind of convolution of a negative emotion. But I think, honestly, I think it gets in the way. I think that the negativity actually blocks me from the creativity. It shuts me down a little bit. When I'm shut down, I'm a little less active, a little less creative, a little less powerful in what I do. So my sense is, and I don't have specific examples in mind, but I'm sure this has been my experience, that when I question the stressful part of something, then I'm left with a part that is just stress free, but still um, not, it's not passive. I don't become passive when I do the work. I become more active. So that tells me that it wasn't the anger or the guilt or whatever that was making me uh, active. It was actually inhibiting my activity a bit. And when that's gone, I'm actually even more active, but without the stress. So best of both worlds in a way. Yeah.